unpacking a really fascinating piece of source material titled The Alchemy of Rejection, The Making of Michael Jordan. Look, we all know the legacy, right? But today we're looking way past the trophies, past the screaming crowds, to examine the exact nitty-gritty mechanics of how a genuinely devastating high school rejection forged a global icon. We're going to break down how raw pain was quite literally transformed into undeniable power. Let's dive in. Picture this. Rain is falling outside. Inside a small house in North Carolina, a young boy is just sitting there in total silence. His absolute biggest dream has just been completely destroyed. Now, it's kind of hard to imagine the name Michael Jordan ever being associated with failure. But fun fact here, at this point in his life, he was actually just known as Mike. He was the skinny high school sophomore who loved baseball just as much as basketball. But to really understand the legend, we have to start right here, in this quiet, incredibly painful room. All right, let's jump into section 1, the devastating rejection. So earlier that day, Michael had eagerly scanned the final varsity basketball roster, and his name wasn't on it. Instead, a 6'7" sophomore named Leroy Smith had taken that final spot. While all the other guys celebrated making the team, Michael just froze. He walked out of the gym, went straight home, locked himself in his room, and cried. And honestly, this is a universal fork in the road for all of us. Most people, they would quit right here to protect themselves from getting hurt again, because the sting of rejection is a really heavy weight to carry. So what does this all mean? What did Michael actually do? How do you go from a locked bedroom of tears to total global dominance? Which brings us to section 2, embracing the lonely work. The answer to that devastating rejection came literally the very next morning, before the sun even rose. He utilized a strict, almost mechanical formula to pull himself out of that dark place. Step 1, wake up before dawn. Every morning at 6 a.m., before the school doors officially opened, while everyone else was fast asleep, Michael was out the door. Step 2, find an empty court. And step 3, turn that failure into fuel. Every single missed shot was a glaring reminder of the roster he didn't make, and of Leroy Smith, the guy who took his spot. He essentially built this laboratory of hard work in the quiet, freezing hours of the morning, letting that empty gym become his ultimate sanctuary. And that relentless drive leads perfectly into section 3, becoming unstoppable. When you put in that kind of lonely work, well, the world eventually has to take notice. Tracing his trajectory, we start with the boy who was cut, crying in his room. But through that disciplined routine, he transforms into a highly sought-after college recruit, eventually hitting a massive game-winning shot for a national championship at North Carolina. Next up, he steps onto the absolute biggest stage in basketball, the NBA. And sure, the pressure for a rookie was massive, but Michael wasn't afraid. Deep down, he drew on that deeply painful memory of his rejection. It was an engine that pushed him far, far harder than the external pressures of professional sports ever could. And it was that internal drive that pushed him to become a full-blown Chicago Bulls legend, capturing championship after championship. But here is the absolutely crucial disconnect in how we view greatness. It's like a giant iceberg. The world just saw the tip. They saw this unstoppable force flying through the air, endless success, the highlight reels. But what they missed was everything beneath the surface. The lonely mornings, the tears, the profound sacrifices, the early failures. All that shiny, visible success was supported by a massive,
completely unseen foundation of pain and grit.
So, what's the actual takeaway for us? Let's look at section 4, the real lesson.
I really want you to think about this. It is so incredibly easy for us to look at a global icon and just assume, oh, they were touched by magic, or they were just born with a different set of genetics. But we have to completely deconstruct the myth that Michael Jordan relied on pure talent alone. His true differentiator was, well, actually, scratch that. It wasn't just a differentiator. It was a full-blown obsession. Even after becoming incredibly famous, even after winning championships, he practiced harder than the beginners. It wasn't even about proving that old high school coach wrong anymore. It had evolved into this relentless, lifelong pursuit of perfection. And because of this unmatched obsession, the world didn't just remember him as a great player. They remembered him as greatness itself. Millions of us walk around wearing his shoes, we repeat his quotes when we're facing our own adversity, and we get genuinely inspired by his mindset. He became this universal symbol for overcoming the odds. And the crazy part is, it all stems from that one painful afternoon in North Carolina. If you take absolutely nothing else away from our analysis today, please let it be this exact philosophy. Failure is not the end. Rejection is not weakness. Really let that sink in for a second. Those moments that feel so incredibly final, those moments that make you feel so small, they are simply raw materials. This is the ultimate alchemy. Sometimes the very moment that destroys you is the exact same moment that creates the legend inside of you. Your absolute worst moments of vulnerability, like when you're left off the list and frozen while everyone else is celebrating, those can be the very fuel required to forge your own greatness. The destruction of an initial dream is, more often than not, the actual prerequisite for building an unstoppable reality. Somewhere out there right now, tonight, another kid is practicing alone in total silence, turning their pain into power. So my question to you is this: where is your empty court? What is the lonely work that you need to embrace before the sun even comes up? And what devastating rejection will you use to build your